Hello everyone and welcome to the Introduction to AI Datasets and Tools webinar organised by Microsoft Azure for the Virtual Hackathon 2021, which is powered by Microsoft and organised by Agorize. For those of you who are not participating in this hackathon yet, feel free to visit the hackathon page either by scanning the QR code that you see on this slide or by using the URL that you see below. Also, if you have any questions that come up during this webinar, feel free to ask them in the Q&A chat and we'll be answering those at the end of the session. It's very nice to meet you. My name is Hearn, and then we'll also have Sudhir Rawat, who is a developer product marketing manager at Microsoft, who will be talking for most of this webinar. So now let me give you a quick recap of the hackathon timeline. So right now we're in the open call phase, which will be running until February 22nd. So feel free to register on the platform until then and submit your solution. Then we will have the deepening phase running from mid-March to mid-April, where projects will be mentored. And finally, we'll have the pitching day on the week of May the 3rd, where all the finalists will be pitching their proposals. And of course, for the question that everyone is interested in, what is at stake and what can you win? So as you see, as of now, the prizes that we communicated beforehand were, as you can see on the left here, so the winning team could get $5,000 US, the first runner-up could get $3,000 US, and the second runner-up would get $1,000 US. But the prizes have now changed and we have new awesome prizes for you. So as you can see now, the current prizes here are $8,000 US for the first prize, which is the best team across all problem statements. We'll also have $5,000 US for the second prize, which is also the runner-up, so second place across all problem statements. And then we will have 4 times $1,000 US, which is the third prize, which will be given to all the best teams in each individual problem statement. So if you want more information, feel free to go on the hackathon page and you'll see a bit more information on this. And there's also, of course, additional benefits to joining this hackathon, which are gaining visibility within Microsoft Azure. You may have also business opportunities after the hackathon, and you'll be able to pitch in front of a large and live audience. So that's it for my introduction. Now I'll hand it over to you, Sudhir, for the webinar.
Cool. Thank you, Sarah, for the introductions. And hello, team. This is Sudhir from Microsoft. I work as a developer product marketing manager in New Zealand, and it's pretty late over here. So I hope I'll be keeping you busy throughout this session. What I'm going to talk about in today's session is about, what are the data sets that are available openly from Microsoft and other platforms. And then also I'm going to talk about the various Azure data services, and I'm going to walk you through some of the cool demos which can, give you some idea of what you can build with the platform and how easy it's going to be for you to build, right? So what I'm going to do is I don't have any slide deck, and hence what you're seeing is my introduction slide over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to share screen 1. And I hope you're able to view my screen. So one of the questions, that we got a lot from the last webinar that we had with you folks is about the data sets, right? This time we've given you industry-based challenges, and one of the reasons there's no data sets over there is because, we want you to come up with your own idea or the innovation that you're gonna bring, So it's maybe not only related with the AI, but then you're probably gonna think about, hey, can I add some IoT component to it, or can I add some hardware component to it, right? So that's why, you won't see the data set. But at the end of the day, if you want, there are various places from where you can get the data sets. For example, you can get the data set from Kaggle websites. If you're working on the AI, you're probably pretty much familiar with that website. We also have Azure Open Datasets website that are available, which you can directly integrate with your notebooks. And this is the one of the sites of the Open Datasets catalog, where you can actually find all the available datasets which you can easily get the data, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can actually go ahead and directly integrate these datasets within your notebook. And we got an example of that as well over here. So as you can see, this is a notebook example. So you can install the Azure ML Open Datasets, and then you can import the library. And as soon as you've done that, you can actually go ahead and start getting the data, right? Similarly, if you have the data set available in a different locations and you want to bring the data onto the Azure, you probably can use Azure Data Factory, which can allows you to connect more than, I think now we have 90+ connectors available, which can help you to get the data from different sources, and you can load it into the storage, right? Now, the last thing on the open data set is, there are probably some scenarios where you feel that you're not able to find the open data sets, right? But you might understand, what are the information that you need, right? What does the schema of the data sets look like, right? Now that's where you're probably gonna think a little more about it, how you can actually gonna design a simple data sets, which probably gonna require for your application or the solution that you're building, right? And generally, if you look on the data side, it generally has two parts to it, right? As I mentioned earlier in my previous session as well, you have the schema side and then you have the data side, right? So schema side, it basically defines what are the columns that you need, what are the data types of the column is, and what kind of a relationship between those tables, right? Now, and then you have the data, right? Now, what you can do is you can actually build a custom application. It could be, for example, a .NET Console application, which can, once you have the schema defined, you can actually go ahead and generate the dummy data, right? Now, if you're working on the programming world, you must be knowing it's pretty easy to, to iterate on the various values and then, generate the dummy data, right? So you can use that and then you can actually go ahead and leverage that. For example, we have one of the problems in the edu sector, and you need probably think about, hey, can we do something with the school data, right? Now, we already been in schools. I mean, I'm sure in this particular call, no one is not gone to the school, right? So we know what is the data, that's will be available in the school, right? So you have the classroom data, you have a student's data, then you have teachers information, then you have classroom informations, and then you have the fees, the curriculum they're part of, right? Now you can easily go ahead and I know it's kind of a little bit of work for you, but then I think it's a worth. You can generate some data and then you can actually go ahead and build your solution around it. Okay. So these are the various options that are available. And again, having provided you all these options, I'm again saying is, we don't want you to restrict with any data sets because we don't want you to limit your imaginations, with the solutions. We want you to come with the very innovative ideas that, may not be thought of or which is new into the market, right? So hence you won't find that information, and I would highly encourage you to, as a team, think more about it. What you can bring onto the table by collaborating with each other, and bring your own solutions, bring on your own data set. We are perfectly fine with it, right? So that's the one aspect of it, right? Now let's say we have the data set available. Now what is the next thing? Right? You probably need some platform to build the solution, right? You need probably your development environment. You need your data services where you can actually store the data. Now, when we talk about the data services, right? Now, this platform is basically grow exponentially, right? Now, earlier we used to have only relational databases, but now over the period of time, if you see, there are various kind of databases which are available, right? And moreover, if you look at traditional RDBMS, then also you will find various flavors of the RDBMS databases as well, right? Now, with the Azure, one of the best things that you will find is we basically take care of the different persona in every organization, right? So be you're working on the Microsoft technologies, be you're working on the open source technologies, we basically welcome with open arms with both the personas, right? So hence, if you go to the Azure portal, and if I, let's say, go and say, I want to create let's just say discard, and let's say I want to create a new resource. And if I'm going to go to the databases, now you can see, apart from the traditional Azure SQL database, which is Microsoft proprietary, you will also find that we have the Azure database for PostgreSQL. We have the Azure database for MySQL, right? So the whole idea is, we don't want you to learn new technologies. Whatever skill sets that you have, you can actually go ahead and bring it as it is onto the cloud, right? And there are various variants to it, right? So let's say if you want to say, hey, I want to install the PostgreSQL on my VM and I want to maintain it myself, you can actually go ahead and install the PostgreSQL on the VM on the Azure, right? Now, one of the reasons of that is, you probably can have, you might not have the capacity that is required on your on-premises or maybe on your laptop. You can get the heavy machines on the Azure, and then you can install your PostgreSQL, right? Now, that's one aspect of it where you have to then manage your infrastructure, your VMs, the security patches in it, upgrading the different version of the software over there, right? Now, when you come onto the platform as a service, for example, like Azure Database for PostgreSQL, the difference is Microsoft behind the scenes will take care of the infrastructure. They will take care of all the security patches that needs to be installed. Make sure that your PostgreSQL is available depending on the pricing tier and the SLA that you have been signed. We will make sure that your PostgreSQL is highly available, right? If you have a NoSQL database, for example, if you have a JSON format, which is pretty famous in the industry, you probably can look for the Azure Cosmos DB, right? Now, along with providing the basic functionality of storing the JSON-like format into the Cosmos DB, it allows you to write SQL-like query onto that JSON document, right? And that's the beauty of it, right? So you don't have to write complicated queries. You can still easily use your SQL knowledge and write your query against your Cosmos DB, right? Not only that, behind the scenes, we'll take care of the performance, the scalability, the security as well. And moreover, we basically allow with the Cosmos DB allows you to, make sure you can actually make your data available in different regions across the globe. So what that means is if I'm sitting in, let's say if I have my data in US, data center, and if I want to replicate the data in, let's say, Singapore data centers, with a one click, I can actually go and do that, right? Then AI and machine learning. In the last call, my colleague Ian already walked you through with all the options that are available, like cognitive services and the machine learning services that we have. I'm going to walk you through a couple of demos of that as well. But beyond that, if you want to thinking something, we need some compute to do some data analytics, or maybe you want to do some advanced analytics, and you want to do it on your own virtual machines, you can actually go ahead and spin up, right? You will also be able to find the data science VM in Azure. So for example, if I click on the data science, and you can see we have the various options available, and we have the data science virtual machines available for Windows and as well as for Ubuntu, right? Now the whole power of providing the data science virtual machines to you is you don't have to think about how to install and how to configure the data science tools on your machines, right? And sometimes it happens, when thing doesn't get installed properly, you'll start getting the errors, and that's when you basically decide, hey, let's go ahead and reinstall the entire software, or maybe sometime entire operating system as well, right? Which will take a lot of time of yours, right? Now, instead of that, you can actually go and choose the data science virtual machines. It will has all the services baked in. So you just log in and you can start working on it, right? So you don't have to worry about it. The tool that needs to be installed, how you're going to configure. Everything is baked in. Just go ahead and spin up your VMs, and then it'll be taken care of, and you can start building your solutions, right? Now that's the one aspect of it, right? The another aspect of it, if I go back and say new and go on to, let's say, storage. If you want to store the data, which is your text files or your CSV files or JSON files, if you want to store in the storage, you can actually go and get various storage options as well. So if I go and click on storage, I will get various options available over here, right? So depending on what kind of a problem that you're trying to deal, what service you need, you can actually go and select it over here, right? Most of the time, I think in your scenario that you're trying to crack, you're probably going to go for the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, and you should be able to find it easily over here, right? And then if I go to the blockchain, if you're thinking to implement blockchain, I don't know. I'm just saying just to make you aware of that service is also available. So if you thinking something on that side and thinking about spinning up the services for that, you don't have to do it. Everything is available on the Azure, so you can just go ahead and focus on that. And this is the Analytic Platform. That's where you basically get the Azure Insight, SD Insight, which is basically a big data platform that we have. So if you ever worked on the Hadoop platform, and if you ever known the MapReduce, the Spark, the BigQueries, right, HBase. So all these open source platform will be available in Azure SD Insight. Now, if you ever work on the Spark and heard about the Databricks, we also have the Azure Databricks as well available, where you can actually write your notebooks and do your data engineering task in the notebooks and deploy your workload. And also the new feature that we have is the Azure Synapse Analytics, which has complete end-to-end tooling embedded with the storage behind the scenes, which is the Azure SQL Data Warehouse, right? Which makes easily for you to build this solution without going from one service to another services. Okay. All right. And how about creating these services? So, for example, if I go to the Azure Synapse, and if I say Azure Synapse Analytics, you just go ahead and click on create. And you basically provide your subscription, you provide your resource group, you provide your workspace, you provide the region where you want to deploy that. And then you basically associate a couple of storage accounts so that behind the scenes, the Synapse Studio basically store those artifacts and directly access the data which is stored on that account. So you can think about it as a landing zone where you're going to store that information, right? And just click on the review and create, and it automatically creates the Synapse workspace for you. Okay. Now, how it's going to look like? What I'm going to do is I'll just go to the existing Synapse workspace, and once I go over there, I can open the Synapse Studio. And it basically going to take me over here. Okay. Now, before I expand and all these options that are available under the develop, let's go back to the home. Okay. Now you can see in the Synapse workspace, you can actually, this is what you call the Synapse Studio. And not only you can build your data pipelines, which can help you to ingest the data from various different data sources. You can actually go ahead and analyze your data. You can visualize the data. That means you can build your Power BI reports. And when I talk about the advanced analytics, you can actually go ahead and do the AI as well within the Synapse Studio. Okay. Now let's go to the data part. So if I go into the linked one, You can see these are the storage that I've integrated with my Synapse workspace, so it's available over here. So whatever data that I've stored over here, it basically gonna be available for me in my notebook. So what I can do is, for example, if I select one of my storage account, and you can see I have all these data right now. For example, if I say right click and I say I want to preview this data, I can just right click and I can actually go ahead and preview the data here itself. But if I want to do and say I want to analyze this data in a SQL script, I can go ahead and do that. Or maybe I can say just load this data into a new Spark table or a load as a data frame so that I can start working on building my solution, right? So the whole idea of it over here is you don't have to spend a lot of time to figuring it out how you're going to connect your notebook with the data sets which relies or which is stored on your storage, right? If I say load to the data frame, you will see it's automatically generate the scripts for me, and then what I can do is I can actually go ahead and run them, right? Now, since we are here on the notebook, here you can see I can actually go ahead and connect to the various Spark pool. Okay, now if I select this one and I can say this has header in it, and I can go ahead and run this. And you can see it basically automatically detect this language is a PySpark, but then you also have options to run your Scala workloads, your Spark SQL workload. More interestingly, that we have added into the Synapse Studio is if you are working on the C#, you can actually go ahead and run your .NET code into the notebook as well. And I'm going to show an example of that. Okay, I'm getting an error, and that is because I think there are some jobs which is already running. So if I go so this is the monitoring tool. So while you're building a solution, if you find any error while executing the Spark notebooks, you can actually go and look on to monitor and Apache Spark application. Go over there, and I'm going to cancel this application over here so that it releases some of the resources so that I can run my code over there. Okay. So it's going to take a minute while it's come back, right? Now, the other thing is if I go to the workspace underneath, you can see we can connect to the Azure SQL data warehouse, which is a part of the Azure Synapse workspace. And then you can actually go ahead and build your data warehouse and store the data and directly access your data into the notebook rather than jumping from one tool to another tool. Okay. So my Spark tool is ready and it should run the query quickly. The other thing is if I want to create the new Spark pool, I can go and do that. And it is pretty easy. I can click on new and I can, you can see you can easily define what compute that you require to run your workload, right? You can select different options that you have, and then you can select number of nodes if you want to, scale out your workload. And I just cancel it because I don't need it. I just want to show it to you. And I'll go back to the data. And there you go. So now you can see I get all of my data over here. And now once I see my data, I can actually go and now start working and building my data here itself, right? So that's the one aspect of it. And if I show you the .NET code over here, and if the job is still running, it's probably gonna, yeah. So let me just go ahead and cancel the job. All right, so that's fine, cancel it. So while it's running, I have run the code earlier. So now you can see actually, I'm basically got the Twitter data. And what I'm doing is I'm basically analyzing that Twitter data over here. So now if you familiar with the .NET code, you will see that this is the .NET code that we are writing in the notebook, and we were able to see the results, right? Not only that, if you want to analyze this information onto the graph, I can actually go and do that as well. So here you can see all the .NET code, and it's basically creating a plot and showing the data into the graph. So it's ready and it should be able to run. So this is, you see the string dot split. So it's going to split and say ABC as an outcome. So what I'm trying to say is this is a syntax of the C#, which you can actually leverage. So the whole point, as I mentioned earlier, as a developer coming from the different background, you don't have to be, learn a new skills, but rather you can utilize your existing skills itself. Okay. Now, if you want to bring the data from different sources, so we also have the integrate options. That's where you can actually use Synapse pipeline, which basically going to help you to move the data. For example, I can say, I'm just going to say copy data. And over here, you can see I can select the source and I can say, let's say new connection. And now here you can see we have all the connectors that are available, right? So be your data is residing on Azure or it's residing on premises or any third-party cloud, we'll be able to connect to those data points by using these different connectors. Okay, so in your case, if you have the data available in some places and you're finding a little hard to bring this data onto the Azure, probably you can quickly run this copy activity and bring the data so that you can start focusing on how you can actually build the advanced analytic workload that you're working on. Okay, rather than figuring it out or writing an application to bring all the data from third party or maybe from the on-premises, right? Which you also have to be worried about the security, right? With the ADF, you don't have to because everything is baked in the platform itself. Okay. Let's go back over here and this is an example of Python code, but I would like to show you the other one, which is model creation. So here what I'm trying to show you is if you have, so if you working with the notebook and if you want to run some machine learning workloads, you can actually go ahead and do that. And this is an example of running a machine learning workload in the Azure notebook, right? So you can see I'm running this PySpark notebook and I'm just, creating the machine learning models, right? So the whole idea is, you can actually use your existing skills and run the code as it is, connect to your Spark pool, and then just go ahead and execute your notebook. Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The other thing is that we bring it recently on Azure Synapses, integration of the cognitive services and the machine learning. Okay, now I hope you remember the machine learning and the AI conversation that you had with my colleague in the last session, right? Where we talk about the cognitive services and we also talk about how you can actually leverage machine learning workspaces, right? Now here in the Synapse, we actually bring that experience seamlessly. For example, if I have, let's say this table, which has, let me just go ahead and say new script, select top 100 rows and run this. So then another thing is, if I want to run a SQL workload and if I have a SQL query that I want to run, I can actually go ahead and use the built-in data pool, or I can actually go for the serverless as well, right? So depending on what workload that I'm trying to work with, I can actually go either of it. That will help you to save a lot of cost, right? Because when you go into the organization, some of the business analysis, they only want to run some query to analyze the data, right? For that, you don't have to run your database servers 24/7, right? So that's where you can use this serverless database pool where the resources will be available as and when required, and automatically then it's shut down. All right. Anyhow, so now you can see I have this data and it has the comments on it, right? So let's say if I want to do sentiment analysis, I can just say, click on this machine learning. I want to enrich with the existing model. So this is going to connect to my cognitive services. So let's say right now I can do anomaly detector and I can do text analytics. So if I already created these models, I can actually go ahead and leverage those models over here. So what we're trying to do is, we're basically making the developers' life easy. Instead of they figuring it out how they're gonna make a secure connection by implementing the Azure Key Vault services and creating a secret names and configuring the Synapse. What they can do is they can actually go ahead and create the Key Vault services, store whatever secrets they want to store over there, and then they can use this UI to connect to the cognitive services account. And how you're going to connect to the cognitive services account, because it's going to ask you for the authorization key, which you store onto the Key Vault, right? And then you can define the name, the secret name, where it can find the secret value and say continue. And then it's going to ask for the language. So for me, it's basically going to be the English language, the comments are, but these are the other languages that we support. And then I can select the target column, where the comments are, on which I want to do sentiment analysis. And I can say open the notebook. Now what's going to happen is, as you can see, it basically write the code for me, right? Which basically import the library. It basically gets the secrets, get the data, and pass it to my text sentiment function. And at the end, it basically gonna give me the output of it. Okay, it is that simple. Okay. Now the another feature that you have noticed, when I click on the machine learning, it also has the option of with the new model, and that's where we basically leverage the Azure machine learning workspace. Okay. Now what this machine learning workspace does it. Let me just go back to the Azure machine learning workspace, and then we'll come back over here, right? Because this is a whole new product in the Azure gallery. Now, when you spin up the Azure machine learning workspace, it basically provides you this experience of building the machine learning models, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, in any organization, we find different personas, right? So if you started your journey with machine learning, and you know a little bit about it, what you can do is you can actually go and start with a designer. Okay, for example, let me just click on the templates over here. Right, so now you can see I can actually go and drag and drop. Let's say I'm going to start with my data set. I can drag and drop my data set, and then I can actually go and look into, let's say, what I want to do. So let's say I want to do recommendation. I can just go and drag and drop evaluate recommendation, and then connect these two tasks. Right now, this is pretty easy for me, right, to build without knowing the coding part of it, right? Now, if you're already experienced with the machine learning concepts and how you can actually leverage the different libraries in the machine learning world, and you want to run your own notebook, you can actually go and do that as well. So we have this notebook experience over here. You can just say create, you're gonna create a new file, and I'm gonna say demo notebook. And then I'm going to select a type, so it's going to be notebook and create it. So it's going to create a new file for me. There you go. And then I can attach with the compute, right? Because once you run your code into the notebook editor, you probably need some compute to run those tasks, right? Even if you want to write your code, you can actually go and do it from here. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but if you want, you can start writing your code and as you do with any other notebook experience. We also have some sample notebooks. If you want to use, you can go ahead and use that, right? Now, more interestingly, what we have is automated ML. Right? Now, think about even if you're a new data scientist or if you're an experienced data scientist, right? What happens when we actually build a machine learning model, right? To get a right model, we have to actually run models in multiple iterations, right? Now, these basically requires us to spend maybe a day, maybe a week, right, or maybe a month, right, depending on how complex model training that you're doing, right, and how many different algorithms you're going to choose, what are the different parameters or the hyperparameters, that you're going to choose to tune your machine learning model, right? Now, it is a tedious task, right, and it's a time-consuming one, right? Now, that's where the automated machine learning comes into the picture, right? So what it does, it basically says, okay, let's go ahead and run an experience over here. So let's say I run a new automated machine learning run, and it asks me to select a data set. I'll select that. And if I click on that, you can see this is the data, which basically provides me information. What is the person blood sugar count, actually? Okay. So based on the various parameters, it gives me this number, right? So now I'm going to take this data set. I'm going to say next. I'm going to say this is going to be my demo environment experiment. And what is the target column? Y. And then I'm going to select a compute cluster. But if you don't see it, you can actually go ahead and create a compute based on how heavy resources that you need to train your model. I'll say next. So now it basically asking you what kind of a problem that you're trying to solve, classification, regression, or time series. So let's say I'm going to say regression, and I'll just click on finish. So now what's going to happen is this automated machine learning, it basically going to run multiple iteration of the job, and each iteration will take the data sets, different algorithms, different hyperparameters, and it's going to run these multiple iterations in parallel. And basically at the end of the execution, it's going to come up with the output and basically suggest me which is the best model that it found. So for example, okay, so my compute is getting started. In the meantime, it's doing that. I should have already running. Okay, so let's look into that. This is the predicting text fair. That's fine. So open this up or go into the models. So this is the experience over here, what you can see over here, right? So these are the various algorithms which is run. And then if I say, let me show the explanation of it, I can actually get the explanation as well. Why it is the best model, I can get the inside of it. I can also actually go ahead and get the metrics as well. Now these are all the information, which is going to be very relevant for you to building your solution, right? And as you can see, it's pretty easy for you to figure out that information. So rather than you're wasting a lot of time to writing a code for that, everything is available in a one click, which can save a lot of time. Now what we did is at the end of the day, we basically provide you the model file, as you can see the pickle file, and as well as if you're working on ONX model, we also provide that model as well, right? So depending on which model you want to use, you can actually go ahead and then deploy this model directly to your either ACI, which is your Azure Container Instance, or you probably want to deploy as an endpoint, or maybe you want to deploy into your AKS cluster. So you have heaps of options available for you. Okay, but the whole idea is it can save a lot of your time to run your machine learning workloads. Okay, so it's going to take some time. It's running, so we'll leave it as it is over here. And so once we have this kind of an experience available, what the Synapse does is it basically brings that experience automatically over here. Okay, so now you can see I can enrich the model and I can select the best model name that I want. I want to create a new experiment, but I haven't connected with my machine learning workspace, so I need to connect with that. But the whole idea is once I create this experience, it's basically going to pass all this information to my Azure machine learning workspace, and the Azure machine learning workspace is going to build the entire artifacts over there, and then give me the results back over here, which I can take it and deploy my model into the database itself. Okay, that's a pretty cool feature. You can now actually store your model in a database in a particular column, right? And that's where the Onyx comes into the picture. Right. So these are the different tools. I haven't gone through the Databricks. We also have the Databricks. We have the various database options available. We have different storage also available. And if you're thinking about something doing with the IoT kind of on a scenario, we also have the IoT services available onto the Azure. So be it your event hub, whether it's your event grid, whether you have an IoT hub, and then we have the various processing engine as well, right? So for example, if you want to run, let's say your Spark streaming jobs, you can go and do that with Databricks, or maybe you want to do with Synapse, you can go and do that. You can run it with the Azure Synapse Analytics. If you're working with Kafka and comfortable with Kafka, you can actually go and bring that workload as well onto the Azure. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, what kind of a solution that you can build, right? So I'm going to walk you through a couple of solutions and the end results of all the services that we have seen. And when we stitch all these services together with the data which is coming from the field, this is a kind of an experience that we can build it for the end user who is actually looking for this information, right? So now here, what you can see an example of a Rolls-Royce company. And what we're doing over here is we actually providing a predictive maintenance solutions to them, right? Now their business use cases, they basically provide the jet engines on a rent to different companies, right? So one of the clauses of their business for up and running is as long as their engine is up and running, they will get paid, right? Now, what happens is if the engine is not working, right? So for example, the plane lands into the airport and they figured out, hey, we need to service it up before it's take the next flight. They basically start calling the supervisors, the technicians, figuring it out, the inventory, which will take a lot of time, right? Now, if the engine is not up and running, it's a huge loss for the Rolls-Royce, right? And we're talking about in millions of losses, right? Now, that's where the predictive maintenance solutions we built for the Rolls-Royce. And what it does is it basically brings all the technologies that I talk about so far together to provide this kind of an experience to them, right? So now what they can see is on the map where all here. Yeah, so where all the planes are going in the map, they can actually go and look into the flight scheduling. They can look into the maintenance scheduling, and with the machine learning capabilities, they can actually figure it out the fuel efficiencies, the fleet utilization, what is the schedule stress, what is the on-time performance is gonna be, right? Now, moreover, on the real time, it basically provides any warning that is happening, right? So one of the planes, as you can see, which is on the map, is having a problem, right? So it's just a warning. So let's click on that. So once I click on that, you can see that it basically not only provides me the location where the planes are, right? Who are the aircraft crew? What are the engine details, flight variation, variance, the flight details, right? Now, as you can see over here, I'm getting a warning which says there's some problem with the propulsion systems, right? So just click on that. Now I can further drill down and I can actually look into the engine details, how that particular part of the engines look like, and what is the services node from last service that has been done. What is the fuel burn status? What are the lead indicators? What is the wash optimizations? And in the engine systems, you can see there's some warning in the primary fuel pump, right? So think about there are various sensors, that are there on the aircraft, right, which keep sending the data, which is getting collected by the Azure and running those advanced analytics services behind the scenes and providing this information in a Power BI dashboard, right? So if I click on that, you can see that it basically tells me, hey, it requires a maintenance. So while the plane is still in the air, what I can do is I can actually go ahead and request a maintenance, and I can say, okay, go ahead and assign available inventory, notify my technicians, create a service task, and update the aircraft records. So once I confirm that, what's going to happen is it's basically going to send multiple events to multiple people on the email and the mobile, and as well as in the third-party applications to basically create a service request. And the whole idea is, as soon as the plane lands onto the airport, all the technicians with the inventory is ready, to service the plane, so that the plane will up and running in no time, right? And then the Rolls-Royce can save a lot of money, right? And that's also a profit, right? It's not only about how you can make a profit, but if you save dollars, that's also a profit, right? Now, there's another example of combination of an IoT and machine learning, which is with the Schneider Electrics we did. So as you can on the map, you can see they have the various stations. So if let's go back. And if I see any alerts, I can actually go and get into that alerts. And you can see on a particular healthcare center, I have the various sensors. Now you can think about this not only as a healthcare system, but the building or the smart city concept maybe that you're thinking of in your solutions. You can have all these sensors, which is giving you a lot of data onto the cloud, and you can collect this data. Not only you can do the real-time processing of the data, but you can actually go and leverage the AI component so that you can do the prediction in the real time as well, right? Now, it also has the integration with Teams, as you can see over here. So any point of time, if I want to talk to my site supervisor, I can actually go and initiate a conversation, right? Now, I can also actually go and do a two-way communication. So all the devices that I have installed on my healthcare center, if I want to update a firmware, I can actually go and do that. So if I say click on install, so this is a two-way communication that's happening, right? So not only we are able to send the data from device to the IoT hub, but then we are able to send the commands to update my firmware from cloud to my devices, right? And this is what happened, right? And if I want to look onto the alerts details, it basically gives me the information what's happening and where the assets are available, what are the alerts is all about, and I can actually go and create a notification if I want. Okay. Now, let me just walk you through one more demo. And this is a little close to my heart because this is where I'm living. So New Zealand is pretty famous for the agriculture, right? And one of the solutions that we have built with the Schneider Electric is what we call the SCADA farm. Now the whole idea is to monitor not only monitor the agriculture, but then also provide the insight in the real time and as well as the prediction, right? So for example, as you can see over here, this is Auckland. This is where I'm sitting somewhere over here. But then we have the sensors across the cities in New Zealand, right? Now, as you can see over here, in one of the farms, we are getting some signals. So I'll just click on that. And as you can see, the machine is basically saying there is some forecast with the wind, right? And these are the warning that I'm getting, right? So let's go ahead and investigate that. Okay, so it says it's probably going to be the problem in this area in that particular farmland. So I'll click on that. Okay, now I can see the moisture level of that particular area. I can see the plant root saturations, irrigation performance, and I can actually go and look into the alert. So I'll click on this alert. So now you can see basically doing the wind forecast, right? And it says This indicator 4 is exposed at the 90° to forecast the increasing winds from southwest, right? So the recommended action, which is recommended by the machine, is to pivot into the north-facing position to eliminate the risk of damage and postpone the water pumping operation until the wind levels are acceptable, right? So not only the machine learning is able to provide me the problem, but also able to suggest me what's going to be the solution of that, right? Now, because with the help of the IoT, I can do the two-way communication. If I say execute it, I can actually send the command from my desk to the cloud, and from cloud to the agricultural land itself. And as you can see, it's going to happen over there, and then things will be fine for me. Okay. All right. So I think that's all pretty much I have for the demo. And I think, go back if there's any questions. So let me just go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And let me just look on if we have any questions. All right, so let me just have a look. The questions. When the hackathon starts. Okay. Can you show some templates which we can work with when we run our machine learning workloads? So there are pre-built templates that are available. If you look out for Azure Machine Learning Gallery, you will get some templates, and probably you can leverage those. And maybe if you want to modify, you can actually go and do that. Now, there are heaps of GitHub repository that are available from Microsoft and as well from Microsoft employees, which you can actually look into to see some of the machine learning model, how they're using and the notebooks and so on and so forth. So if you want to customize that and want to leverage, feel free to go ahead and do that. Is it necessary to use data sets in building our solution? I'm not sure. See, at the end of the day, when you're going to show the working solutions, you need to have some kind of a data set, because otherwise it's going to be pretty hard for us to understand, how the data is flowing from one system to another and making an impact. For example, if the demo that I've showed you, if I don't show any data, and if I just show you, that you have the IoT, and then you have an advanced analytics platform, and then you have Power BI reports available. That's already available, right? The architectures are available, but then what at the end of the day that we're going to get it, right? So we need a clarity on that as well, right? And how it's going to help the industry that you're targeting as well, right?
Thanks, Sudhir. I think I'll just, if you're done with this question, I'll just jump in with the more like hackathon organization-based questions. So sure. I see one. So Dilla asked, when will the hackathon start? So actually, the hackathon has already started. The application phase is currently ongoing and will be ongoing until February 22nd, midnight, Hong Kong, Singapore time. Then will this be recorded? So yes, the webinar is being recorded, and we'll post the recording of the webinar on the Hackathon platform afterwards for you to review later. And then if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to post them now. Otherwise, we'll continue with the rest of the slides and finish off this webinar. Okay, I think if no one else has any other questions, I think we can go to the next slides. So just as a quick reminder of what is at stake for the winners and the participants of this hackathon. So we've changed the prizes. We now have new upgraded prizes for everyone. So the first prize is now $8,000 for the best team across all problem statements. Then we have $5,000 for the runner-up, again across all problem statements. And then for the best team in each individual problem statement, we have $1,000 times 4. And additionally, for the other benefits, well, you saw them on the slides. For the next upcoming webinars, we'll have the demo of development and deployment of large data sets using AI, and then we'll have interactive Q&A session. The dates for the moment are to be confirmed. So thank you very much for participating in this hackathon today. Again, if you want to participate in the hackathon, please feel free to scan the QR code you see on this slide, or use the link, the URL link that you see on the slide. So thank you very much for attending today, and I hope you enjoyed this, and see you again for the next webinar sessions and on the platform. Bye bye.